You are Locked On Mets Postcast, part of Locked On Sports New York on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Baseball provides the highest of highs and lowest in lows, and tonight for the Mets, it was the lowest of lows as they dropped the opener of this important three-game series with the Atlanta Braves 5-1 on a night where the starting pitching failed them and the offense failed them. Welcome into this Locked On Mets postcast. I am your host, Chris Schubert, a host here for Locked On Sports New York, covering you on the Locked On Mets and Locked On Jets postcasts. And today's episode brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.com, Booking.yeah. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your baseball rivals. Book today on Booking.com, the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball. Get the Booking.com app today. And the New York Mets entered the most important series of the year with everything on the line, question marks of whether or not baseball games are going to be played tomorrow and on Thursday with the season on the line. And it was a massive letdown. And I don't think I have felt amped up or hyped for a game or series in recent memory as much as I was when I woke up today, knowing this game was on the calendar, knowing this series was going to start today. The Mets controlling their own fate, controlling their own outcomes when it comes to this wild card race, and they still do after tonight's game, but you can't help but feel a huge letdown going into tonight and having this type of performance. And it all started with Luis Severino not giving you his best. 4 innings pitched, 7 hits, the 4 earned runs, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts, and gave up the 1 home run. And you could kind of tell it wasn't going to go the Mets' way when very early on in this game, they had a break go their way with Orlando Arcia making a mistake in the field, something that the Braves don't do defensively. He makes that mistake. The Mets don't capitalize. They don't get a run on the board. And then immediately thereafter, the Braves take advantage of a mistake by Francisco Alvarez, kind of colliding with Luis Severino. Not sure if they would have been able to make the play anyway, but Alvarez running out to try to help field that ball and Severino having to kind of like sidestep around him led to a runner being on base, and that allowed the floodgates to open, and it was all she wrote from that point. The Mets were not going to come back into this game with the offensive effort tonight, and I showcase it pretty regularly here on the show. The book's got no notes in it tonight. The book doesn't have a lot to go off of. Braves were good, Mets were bad. That's what the book would have said, what it would say here on the book if I did write things into the book while the game was happening. But I found myself just sitting back and watching a team have a massive letdown. And I don't want this postcast to take on the feeling of doom and gloom. It's over. And, I have it in the description over there, 2022 vibes again, question mark. And we'll get into that over the course of the show. And you notice there are no performances of the game tonight. There's not even a performance of the game that we're going to give out tonight, although we'll talk about maybe one bright spot that came from this game tonight. I don't want to be doom and gloom, but I do think it is fair, and I do think it is reasonable to feel let down by this team tonight, because this team has met every moment like tonight before. Every time they have needed a game like they would have needed tonight's game, they have met that challenge. They have met that outcome. And so for a fan of the 2024 New York Mets, this is kind of uncharted waters. This is really the first time we've seen this team in this kind of spot lay a goose egg like this. And yes, there have been times during series where they've lost games, right? The 2 games against the Philadelphia Phillies after they win the first one and they blew them late and the bullpen gave those games away. Yeah, that happens over the course of a baseball season. But with the way they finished this past home series with Philadelphia and going in to tonight's game, don't know if we're going to play on Wednesday and Thursday, knowing the magic number is 4, still remains 4. And looking at what opportunity was in front of them tonight, you kind of felt like the 2024 Mets were going to be ready for the task. They weren't going to look overwhelmed. They were going to be up for the challenge. And the things that were going their way in 2024, good starting pitching and the breaks going their way, were going to continue. Tonight, on September 24th, it wasn't that night. It was a night where everything that had been going right for the New York Mets just didn't go right for the New York Mets. And it led to a good Braves team taking advantage, and the Truist Park down there in Atlanta becoming a little bit of a house of horrors for the New York Mets. And sometime within the next week, they're going to get an opportunity to make that up. So again, I get it. It does feel like a massive letdown. we're kind of going off script tonight. We normally have a path. We talk about a great starting pitching. We talk about all the breakout performers from the lineup. We give out the performances of the game. We get a little bit of a preview to the next day. We don't have that tonight. We have a team that had a moment, had an opportunity to go out there and try to reduce their magic number from 4 to 2 and control their fate. And they're going to have to go to bed tonight. Their head's going to have to hit the pillow with that still being the scenario. The number is 4. And if you're watching this live now after the game, you're rooting for the San Francisco Giants when they take on the Arizona Diamondbacks so that the New York Mets can stay in front of at least one team in this wild card race. They stay in front of the Braves for now, but they can also stay in front of the Diamondbacks with a Giants win tonight. And again, the Luis Severino start it's just massively disappointing. I was texting a buddy throughout the game, and I tell these stories all the time because it's always interesting to see how I feel over the course of the 9 innings and then how I feel when this microphone turns on and I'm talking to all of you and we're doing this postcast and I'm able to at least take 5 minutes after the game to decompress and try to put my thoughts together for what we're going to talk about here on the show. But in the moment, I texted a buddy and I said, this is just the worst case scenario for Sevy to have this start in this spot, because you don't want that to be the lasting image for this season. If the Mets don't go on to make the playoffs, and it dates back to the start of this series, you don't want that to be what we think of Luis Severino's 2024. But it might be if things don't go correctly, because he has been excellent. He made his 31st start of the year tonight. The first time since 2018 he has made this many starts in a season, right? I think in that year he made 30 or so. So he's doing something in 2024 that he hasn't done in 6 seasons, something that people didn't think he was going to be able to do again with all of the health concerns that he had, all of the injury history that he had. People didn't think he was going to be able to be a top of the rotation 30-plus start a year guy. Well, he was for the New York Mets in 2024. And I know tonight was bad, but he's the guy, he's one of the guys you want the ball in his hand in this spot in this series. You wouldn't want to do over with this. You would still want Luis Severino out there with how well he's been pitching this year. So I hope, and the one thing this team has done is when they have been knocked down, and I don't know if they've been knocked down the way tonight's knockdown is going to feel because of the magnitude of the moment, but every time they have been knocked down, this team has dusted themselves off and they have gotten back up. And maybe they'll get an opportunity to get back up tomorrow and play a game or two, depending on how MLB is going to go about this. But they are going to have 5 more games at some point the remainder of this season. And so they are going to have an opportunity to dust themselves off and deal that counter blow that we have seen them deal time in and time out in 2024. And I hope that they deal that counter blow so that this is not the lasting image we have of Luis Severino in 2024 for the New York Mets. But one of the other big stories from this game tonight, unfortunately, was an offense that was absolutely non-existent. Some lifeless at-bats and a team that just didn't feel like they had any handle on Spencer Schwellenbach. We will get into that here on the other side. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. So the offense for the New York Mets, lifeless, had, I think, 3 hits when it was all said and done, 4 hits when it was all said and done. They did get 1 run across the board. Shout out to Mark Vientos, who, again, we're not giving out performances of the game. Don't think we should do that in a loss, but that's the bright spot. If there's one thing that you're going to take away from this, it's a guy who's been, I think, inconsistent, but I would say more so on the struggling side of the spectrum here over the last couple of weeks. For him to have a 2-for-4 game, including a home run that at least got the Mets on the board, at least gave them a little bit something to take away from this game. Him having a 2-for-4 night is potentially really good for his confidence because they're going to need somebody to step up. The other good thing that came out of this game, and I don't know if it was just for show to maybe just put the thought into the Braves' mind, but when Mark Vientos stood up there for the last at-bat of the game, Francisco Lindor was standing in the on-deck circle. So the plan was that if Vientos got on, that Francisco Lindor was good enough, was ready enough, was healthy enough to step into that game as a pinch hitter. So that should give us a little bit of confidence. And there's a lot of negativity tonight on the show. This was a letdown. The offense did not show up, uncompetitive at bats. Just the approach at times I thought was bad. Not a lot of good. There's not a lot of good from this game. But to see Francisco Lindor in that on-deck circle tells me, and I thought this for a long time, that they would not start Lindor in tonight's game. But if they lost and the pressure started to maybe build a little bit, the margin for error shrunk. If Lindor was healthy, he was going to be in this lineup, or was going to try to convince himself to be in this lineup the next time the Mets are out there. Whether that is Wednesday, more than likely not going to be Thursday, or if it's in that start of that series against the Brewers in Milwaukee, Francisco Lindor is going to be out there. And I think by what we saw at the end of this game tonight, that he was out there. And I don't have social media open, so I'm sure Carlos Mendoza is being asked about it. I got to think that Francisco Lindor is going to be in this lineup the next time the Mets take the field, whether it is against the Braves or the Brewers. Francisco Lindor is going to be playing shortstop, maybe DHing and being at the top of that lineup. So again, that's one good thing that you can take from this. Jose Iglesias extends his hitting streak to 17 games, but look, there's a lot of offers in here. There's an 0 for 4 for Brandon Nimmo, who just unlucky, hits a ball right at Matt Olson, just knocks it down, is able to make a play, hard hit ball, but them's the breaks, and the breaks did not go the Mets' way tonight. Starlin Marte, 0 for 4, didn't love his approach at times, didn't love him staring at some pitches. There was a 3-pitch at bat where he struck out that was uncompetitive. And that's the word that I think describes this Mets team tonight offensively against Spencer Schwellenbach, who you have to give credit. 13 straight innings against the Mets without allowing a run before the home run by Vientos. He just blanked the Mets. 7 innings, 3 hits, the 1 earned run, the 1 walk, the 4 strikeouts. I mean, he had the Mets just guessing. I mean, he started the 7th inning with only 78 pitches. So he was cruising in this game. The Mets had nothing against him. Just offers all over the place. Francisco Alvarez, 0 for 3. Tyrone Taylor, 0 for 3. Jesse Winker, 0 for 4. A couple of just early in the at-bat pop-ups to start the game. The Mets just didn't have a game plan. Or if they had a game plan, it was not well executed. And you got it, again, you tip your cap to the opposing pitcher with the game plan that he had tonight, because he threw more of his slider than he did the last time he pitched against the Mets and was successful, and that he normally does in a given year. So he had a game plan against this New York Mets team, and there was not the adjustment that this team needed to have. And at a time where they cannot afford to go cold, especially with Lindor being sidelined tonight, although it looked like available in a pinch hit spot, this team was lifeless. This team did not have the gusto that they needed. They did not have the offensive approach. And I don't want to say that this type of performance was the writing on the wall, because, I mean, they only won the game on Sunday 2-1 against the Phillies. This was a team that scoring runs last week. They had the 3 games where they scored 10 runs or more. But unfortunately, the motto for this team in 2024 offensively has been of a streaky nature. It has been hits in bunches, runs in bunches, putting up some big crooked numbers. And then there are games where, even though they're winning, and even though vibes are high, and even though, the lead is growing in the wild card race, they're only getting 2 runs across. It's a grind to come back against the Washington Nationals in the first game of the series and put enough runs on the board to win that game, walk it off in extras, but win it 2-1, right? And so, yeah, you look at the box score and it says 2-1, and it says victory, and you kind of just file it away as a win. But I think we can look back at those moments, and it's not just recently, it's throughout the entirety of the year. This offense has gone cold at times. We know the struggles that JD Martinez is going through. We know the struggles that Brandon Nimmo has gone through this year. We know at times Mark Vientos, at least recently, has been struggling. Everybody in this lineup, maybe outside of Jose Iglesias, has gone through a stretch where the bat has just not been there. It has not been to what the back of their baseball card tells us they should be. And tonight was, I think, the ultimate, just everybody at the same time just was fooled, just did not have a good approach, did not have a good game plan, did not have the necessary tools in the toolbox to go after Spencer Schwellenbach and have an approach that was going to allow the Mets to win this game. And again, like I said, you get that break in the 3rd inning where Arcia misplays a ball, and then there's Marte gets on base, or Pete draws a walk, and you now have 2 guys on, and they can't do anything with it, right? So it's just one of those things where you get those types of opportunities, you get the door opening a little bit from the Braves, and you're not able to take advantage of it. Boom, they immediately take advantage of it the next time they're up. And now all of a sudden, that's just going to bring the vibes down. It's going to bring the temperature in the room down. You're going to feel like missed opportunity, huge missed opportunity. And there are some people on this team that were there in 2022, and I wonder if the thought did creep into their mind. That is going to be the thing we wrap up with, because I'm sure you thought about it, because I certainly thought about it. That series in September in 2024, and how the start of this series and the losing of the first game starting to bring back those bad memories from 2022. We're going to discuss that here next. This episode of the Locked On Mets postcast brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.com, Booking.yeah. Explore those U.S. cities you always secretly wanted to learn more about. Maybe it's another baseball city. With hotels, bed and breakfasts, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com, you might just find your perfect stay, even in your baseball rival city during the postseason. Maybe it's time to taste test your baseball competition stadium cuisine. Well, luckily, on Booking.com, you can find the stadium stay that's just right for you. With Booking.com's wide variety of choices across the U.S., you can go incognito to all your baseball rival cities. I'm certainly hoping that there's an opportunity to open up the Booking.com app here in a couple of days to watch some postseason baseball in a city involving a certain team. Booking.com delivers exactly the right U.S. stay for you. Booking.com can help you book a stay that's close to your home team's or rival stadium. No matter what team you are rooting for this postseason, Booking.com can make you a fan of any U.S. city. From hotels that look over the stadiums to family-friendly resorts to cute bed and breakfast stays, Booking.com has so many choices across the U.S. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your baseball rivals. Booking.com, Booking.yeah. Talked about it a lot here on the show. FanDuel, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. You want to stay locked in here, Locked On Sports New York YouTube channel. We don't know the next time we're going to have a Locked On Mets postcast. There's supposed to be a game tomorrow. There's supposed to be a game Thursday, but there's a hurricane that's supposed to roll through down there in Atlanta, Georgia, putting all of this up in the air. And there's talks of a doubleheader on Monday, just the day before the wild card series start on Tuesday. So you're going to want to make sure that you are subscribed to the Locked On Sports New York YouTube channel so you know when we go live after whenever these games are played. I've got you covered on the Mets side, also got you covered on the Jets side, and Jay Berman's got you covered over on the Giants side, and the Knicks starting right around the corner as well. So do me a favor, subscribe here to the YouTube channel and turn on that notification bell and join us. Get in the comments, like the video, throw a comment in after the video, get involved in all of the fun here that we have on the Locked On Sports New York YouTube channel as we launch these postcasts. We've been doing them for a couple of weeks now, and we're glad that you are on board here with us. I'm delaying the inevitable because I don't want to have this conversation. This was not something I wanted to enter the purview of the 2024 New York Mets. We all thought about it. We've all debated. We saw the calendar. We saw the Brave series. We saw how good the Mets have been playing, and we thought to ourselves, an opportunity. Slay the dragon, avenge the demons, house of horrors, whatever phrase you want to use. We looked at this series as an opportunity to make 2022 and what happened in those 3 games in Atlanta where the Mets lost, got swept, lost the lead in the National League East, didn't really get to celebrate going to the postseason, and then ultimately lose 2 out of 3 to the San Diego Padres as a wild card team, not as a division winner. We thought this was going to be the opportunity to wipe that slate clean, to slay that dragon, and have a different conversation about the New York Mets. Well, unfortunately, after this loss tonight, I can understand there's a lot of people. I was getting text messages. I saw it on the social media channels that the 2022 vibes, the thought of this being just a rerun of 2022 in the same place, the same type of context, just don't get swept. And here we are having a conversation of, is this place a house of horrors for the Mets, and are they going to be able to figure it out? And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you want to view this, and again, we're focusing on the game tonight, and they did not play well tonight, but I can't help but discuss that we don't know when this team's going to play next. Potentially tomorrow. And if they play tomorrow, then it is an immediate opportunity to get right back at it, to go right back after this Braves team and try to get one of the 2 wins that they need to get in Atlanta to make that magic number 0 and to clinch a playoff spot. If they don't play these 2 games over the next 2 days, which is a large possibility at this point, then maybe in a twist of fate, they get to go to Milwaukee And if they win a couple games there, they can shrink the magic number, and they might not need to worry about those makeup games. They're going to probably have to play them for seeding purposes, and who knows with what the Diamondbacks are going to do, if those games are going to be meaningful to the Diamondbacks or the Braves. They probably are. But it also might allow you to get out of Dodge and just have a reset. But here's where I think this is different. And here's where I think we need to, and we are troubled baseball fans as Mets fans. But here's where I think we need to have a positive attitude. And I was trying to hype up my group chat with all my Mets fan friends while we were watching the game. This is a good baseball team. This is a baseball team that is not sliding in the standings the way the 2022 team was. The 2022 team, again, won over 100 games, a shell of themselves in August and September leading up to the series against the Braves at the end of 2022. This Mets team, a team on the ascent, a team playing their best version of baseball right now. And guess what? You can't win every game you play. And I know this team has kind of instilled this belief that no matter what, anytime they go out there, they can win and they can rattle off 15, 20 in a row. They won 9 in a row, the 33-12 final stretch at Citi Field, the last 30 games where they just have been unbelievable. I get it. You can throw all the stats at me in the world. I understand, but you can't win every day. And the idea of a sweep of the Atlanta Braves in this spot certainly felt like it was trying to play for fool's gold. The goal of this series is to take 2 out of 3. 2 Mets wins, 2 Braves losses. That's it. Does not matter what happens the rest of the way. That opportunity is still in front of the New York Mets. So I know all the breaks go Atlanta's way. All the hard hit balls found a glove. Michael Harris had one of those games where he becomes like Matt Olson last year, or Dansby Swanson last year, or in 2022, excuse me, or Trent Grisham. And just I can name all of the people in Mets history and in Mets lore that have come up in a big spot against this team, against this franchise, and have become folklore, have become those people that anytime you see them, no matter what jersey they're wearing, it's an immediate flashback to the moment where they beat the New York Mets and they beat your team. I get it. And Michael Harris had a game like that tonight. Great play in center field, big home run, 3 for 4. I'm very well aware that Michael Harris, certainly with the way he played in game 1, is trying to put himself into that lore book with other Braves, Freddie Freeman, Larry, a lot of people already in that lore book. And Michael Harris, with a game like he had tonight, trying to put himself into that lore book. But you know what? This team is not 2022. And they're not 2022 for a lot of different reasons. And this team's got a great manager. They got a great clubhouse. I think the addition of Francisco Lindor, if it is going to come in this next game, and certainly it feels like he was good enough to bat tonight in a pinch hit spot, makes me think that they're going to give him an opportunity to play. And I think the easy thing to do is to keep Acuna at shortstop and make Lindor the DH so he doesn't have to play in the field and he can really manage the back over the next couple of days. That's going to provide a little bit of a boost to this team, some energy to this team. And you can imagine if Francisco Lindor, who's dealing with a bad back, who's missed the last 8 games, who is said he's not going to be pain-free, he's going to play with pain. If he's out there, if he's hustling, if he's grinding out at bats, if he's getting big hits, if he's firing up the dugout, that is going to bring the vibes back. So one bad night, I get it. And there's a lot of reason to be upset. Poor pitching performance. You got an offense that was lifeless. I get it. And the next 2 games in this series don't certainly look like they're going to be super advantageous pitching matchup-wise. But this New York Mets team is good. They have proven an ability to bounce back and get up off the mat. They just need to be able to do it one more time. They do it one more time, and they show us that this 2024 team is not the 2022 team, that I think we are going to have a little bit of a delayed celebration here. We thought that tonight was going to be part 1 of the celebration, the magic number going down to 2, and we were going to be able to start figuring out where the celebration was going to be and feeling really good about needing to just get one of the next 2. Well, guess what? Now the task gets even greater, and more often than not in 2024, the New York Mets have answered the bell when the task has gotten greater. And I am not going to allow one bad night. Again, I understand all the bad memories that were resurfaced from tonight, but let's not allow one bad night, and a night that could have been something special, but it wasn't. But I am not going to allow one bad night to allow what has been a great run in 2024 and what can still be a great run to be taken away from me as a fan. And hopefully you as a fan as well, are at least feeling a little bit better after what was a bad night tonight. Again, not trying to put lipstick on a pig. It was a bad night. The New York Mets have opened the door for the Atlanta Braves, but they are still in control. And that is the message that I think is important for all of us to share. If you want more thoughts here about the Mets dropping this game and what is going to be the chaos of the next couple of days, because again, I don't know when we're doing another postcast for this team, whether or not it's going to be Wednesday or Thursday, make sure you are subscribed to the Locked On Mets podcast. Ryan Finkelstein's got you covered. He'll have you covered each and every day, whether or not there is a game, looking at what is left on the docket for the New York Mets. Like I said, give us a subscribe here on the Locked On Sports New York YouTube channel. We got you covered after each and every New York team plays a game. And whenever that is, we will be back here to discuss what is hopefully going to be a Mets victory, moving them one step closer to making the playoffs in 2024. Disappointing night for the New York Mets, but opportunity still remains. And we'll be here to break it all down next time on the Locked On Mets postcast. See you, everybody.